Hi, Diane here. I'm just going to do you a little video on the stamp stencil borders. Okay, stencil, stamp, large, small. Come and join me. The stamp stencil borders come in two sizes. This is the normal size, well, the smaller size, and this fits perfectly in the square journals and in the diaries or the small journal. And then the larger size, this fits perfectly in the large journal. But you can use both in either. You could use this in the smaller ones, you can use this in the larger. We have three different images. The first one, I'll put them together so you can see the proportions. Hopefully this is not shining too much with the plastic, but we have the brickwork. So we have the large brickwork and we have the regular brickwork, and you can see each stamp comes with a stencil in the back, so you get both of these for your money. So there's large and small, not both sets, you get the stamp and the stencil in each set. So the second set we've got here is the Cobwebs. Again, this is the smaller one. This is the larger one. Same design, it's just the proportion that's different. And then here we have the leaves. So again, you have the stencil in the back and you have the, oh, there we go. You have the stamp on the top. The stamps are clear because with these, you could use the stencil on its own, the stamp on its own, or you could use the two together. So to use the two together, I've gone for clear stamps so you can see the stenciling underneath. Now, these are not meant to align perfectly. They're meant to be wonky like my doodling is. But at the top of each one, it shows you what the stencil looks like and what the stamp looks like as well. Okay, so because these will fit on my normal size journal block, you can see that will fit perfectly on there, but because these are a lot bigger, I had to make a new journal block. Oh, I put it to the side, there we go. So here's the new journal block, which you can see, let me take this stamp, these stamps fit perfectly on. So this is the oversized journal block, same qualities as the smaller one. It's a different shape, so you can get different frames. It's got 12 inches along here. It's got a centering line as well. So this is your 6-inch mark. I love that. If you're trying to work something out, if you put this in your center, you can measure it. And then it's got your guides on here. It's got little holes to draw through. This between here and here is 1/4 of an inch. And between here and here is 1/2 inch. So, and then 1/4 of an inch. So the whole thing there is 1 inch, which will help you with your guide when you're drawing your frames. So if you go for the large, you're going to need the large journal block as well. So that's what they look like packaged. Now, what I suggest you do, I haven't decided yet whether I'm using large or small, whichever one comes nearest to me. Here we go. But what I suggest you do when they are new is these, when they're brand new, I think this might be a new one, you take off the front page easily, the front protective, and then it's a little bit harder to get the back off. So what I suggest you do is hold the stamp and slowly pull back the protective back in. This is only when it's brand new. So you'll pull it back like so. And then I would just leave it upside down on your mat like this. Because if you pull it and then go to use it, the pattern will have stretched. So just leave it flat on your mat. And then when you want to use it, I just take the block and I actually just pick it up like that. Because again, with some of the larger ones, you're fiddling to get it on and you can stretch them. Okay, so I'm just going to choose one design to do. I think I'll do the brickwork on here. No, let's do the flower, the leaves on here. And I think I'm going to use the large leaves. Now, when we come to stamp this and stencil, you can either do it as a border, because they are border stamps, so you could do it right across here, or you could do it so it was here and here and here, because it's still bordering from this way, and I will show you that. So I'm going to take the stencil first, and the important thing to remember when you're using these, now I hope you can see here where it says front. Hopefully you can see that. That means that's the front. If it's this way and all you can see is to north, you've got it the wrong way around. So if you are going to use the stamp and the stencil together, make sure that the front is at the front, okay? Because otherwise, when you come to stamp it, it's not going to match. Can you see? this stamp's this way, but if I had it this way round, it's not going to match at all. So it's really important, if you're going to do the two together, that you do it. So I think on this one, I'm just going to put one garland. Now you can have it up so it comes down from the top, or you can have it growing up. It doesn't matter. I think I'm going to have it growing. I think I'm going to have it coming down. Doesn't really matter as long as I can read the front there. So once I've got decided where I want the stencil, I'm going to take the paint. This is an inked background that I've done here. You can see I've inked it, I've ghosted it with the circles, with the fresh dots stencil. I've also added some layers here with the square stencil. I've got some blobs on for other things. It doesn't matter to me. So I chose, I've got a turquoise in the background, so I chose the vibrant turquoise paint to go on the top. And I always apply the paint with one of the blending tools. I've already got a little bit on here, so I'm just going to add a tiny bit more and blend it in. So I'm going to just put it where I want it to. Now, normally when I'm stenciling, I just lightly stencil over, but this, we want it to be a focal point. So I am actually going backwards and forwards. I'm taking a bit more care than I normally would. And then I'm just going to move it down. Some people are concerned that if they, that it might move. That's fine. You can see where it is and you can just place it straight back on top. Up to you whether you use a coordinating colour or a colour that has got nothing to do with your page at all. It's entirely up to you. But you can see here where I've stenciled it down. To clean your stencil, all you do is just take a piece of dry kitchen roll. Kitchen roll cleans, baby wipes just blend and spread. So you can see a piece of dry kitchen roll will take that paint off and it will clean up as well. Okay. So I quite happily can just do it in one place, or let's do another one on here, where I'm just going to bring it down a little bit from the top. So I'm going to use the same colour to save time. So I'm going to turn it round this time. It still says front because I just find it easier rather than reaching over. So I'm just going to add some more paint on here. You are better getting a little bit of paint more often than just getting a lot of paint and putting it on, because you don't want it to seep underneath this stencil. So you can see I'm just going along and I'm making it be a little bit longer in areas. There we go. So that's the way up it's going to be. So it's going to come down like so. So can you see it's still a border because it's coming from this edge down. So again, I'm just going to clean this stencil up. So I have got 2 pages now which have got some stenciling on with the leaf. I could stamp onto here to match and that would be great, but I think I'm going to do that on here. But on here I actually like it just like that. So on this one I'm just going to leave that, okay, to show you that you can just use the stencil if you want. So here we've got the leaf. I'm going to take it off its backing sheet. And I went for the large leaf here. This has been removed a few times, so it's not really going to stretch. But it's still easier to lay it face down on the mat and take the journal block and put the journal block on it than it is to try to fit it on here. It's just much easier to do. And again, I'm just going to turn it upside down because I did it this way. So when I come to ink this, I always use an archival ink, always. Jet Black is my favourite archival ink. You can use any of my diary inks. I have the Black Marble diary ink in there. But whenever I'm demoing, I tend to use the larger pads because it's quicker. When I'm stamping, as usual, this is what you should hear. Fairy footsteps instead of fairy elephants, which I hear a lot. So I'm just going to take the pad and I'm just going to lightly tap all the way up. You don't have to put a lot of force on when you're inking your stamp, and you can see it's beautifully inked there. I always have to stamp from the direction it's growing. So because I've come down, I have to stamp this way. It's ever so weird. What you do is, now remember me saying that these don't align. This does not perfectly fit on here. It's meant to look as though I've doodled it. So I just hold it above-ish so I can see. Then I'm a stand-up stamper, so I'm just going to stand up a bit more. I'm just going to press. I'm going to press, move it along, press. And there I've got my stamping. So you can see where it just slightly misses in areas, but it just looks so creative like that. So you could either just use the stencil and the stamp, or you could just use the stamp. So I'm just going to use a different stamp on the bottom of here. Now, to clean these stencils, I just take a little bit of a baby wipe first, and then I just blot it with some kitchen roll, and that lifts that off, no problem. So I'm going to take that off there, and I'm going to use the brickwork. I'll use the brickwork stamp. Now, because I'm only stamping this, I don't need to line it up. I don't have, you know, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to stamp it. I'm going to ink. I'm only going to ink about halfway. And I'm just going to press it down here. Ink a bit more. Just line it up slightly. I love these border stamps. They are so useful. The fact that you can use them, let me see now, I'll go back up a bit. The fact that you can use just the stencil or just the stamp or both together is great. So again, I'm just going to, a little bit of a baby wipe, blot it, put it to one side. So we've seen here, you can use the stencil on its own to create this, and if I want to go in and doodle this later, I will do. But when I doodle, oh, I haven't got a pen. When I doodle, again, I just doodle really loosely. So you can stencil it on its own. You can use the stamp on its own. I'm not going to colour that in. I just like it in the background like that, but you could colour it in if you wanted. Or you could use the stamp and stencils together. So I'm going to show you now some examples of that. So here's the spiderweb, the cobweb. You can see where I've stenciled it with the yellow. That's the vanilla custard, and added the spiderweb on the top. This is the brickwork where I actually stenciled first. So here is where I just stamped. On this one, I stenciled first and then I stamped over the top. That's in the laid back lilac. Again, just what I've just shown you earlier. Now, I showed you where I just left it, but here's one you can see where I stenciled it in the pink and then I've just stamped over the top. But can you see how nothing's meant to hit? It's meant to be very, very loose. Here's one with the brick wall just stamped on the background, and here's two where I've got them in the background. You can see the brick wall comes right down there, and I've added die cuts on there and some of my stamps. And this one here, you can see I've got the leaves. This time the leaves are growing up. You can see they're under here as well. And I've got lots of stamps. What I also do is, as well, is whenever I am stenciling on something, I also stencil in my black book. Now, obviously, you can't stamp with the black ink in here. So I've stenciled in my black book and then I've doodled with a white pen. There we go. There's one of the brick walls. I've got one more somewhere. There we go. There's a brick wall again. So you can stencil in the black book and then you would just draw with a white pen to accentuate it. Okay, easy when you know how, isn't it?